You think you miss those days, the old routines, the old places, the old people. But if you're honest, it's not the memories that hurt. It's the feeling that you were different back then. Lighter, more certain, more like yourself. And you don't know where that version of you went. You scroll through old photos sometimes, not even because you want to. It just happens. And for a moment, everything feels close again. But then something strange follows. Not happiness, not even sadness. A kind of quiet disorientation. Because the person in those memories feels familiar. And also like a stranger. You start asking questions you can't quite answer. Why did things feel easier? Why did I laugh more? Why did I care less about everything? You assume life was better. But when you really examine those years, they weren't perfect. You had problems, uncertainty, fear. So why does your brain keep trying to go back there? Psychology calls this identity-linked nostalgia. You're not remembering events. You're remembering a version of yourself that no longer feels accessible. And that creates a deeper kind of loss. Not situational loss. Identity loss. Here's the important part. This doesn't mean something is wrong with you. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. Human memory is not a recording device. It's a reconstruction tool. It doesn't preserve the past. It preserves the meaning of who you were in that past. So when life changes, new roles, new pressures, new expectations, your brain starts comparing your current identity to older ones. And when there's a gap, it interprets that gap as something missing. Not because the past was better, because your sense of self has changed faster than your brain can emotionally update. You're not longing for time. You're trying to reconnect with a self-definition that once felt stable. To understand this, you have to look at how the brain builds identity. Your sense of self is not a fixed thing. It's a neural pattern, a network of memories, habits, emotions, and predictions constantly reinforcing each other. Neuroscience sometimes describes this as a self-model. Think of it like software running in the background. It updates slowly, but life can change quickly. When your environment shifts, new responsibilities, stress, independence, loss, your behavior adapts immediately. But your emotional brain, especially areas tied to autobiographical memory like the hippocampus, still references the old model. So you get a mismatch, a psychological lag, like wearing clothes that used to fit perfectly, but now feel slightly off in every direction. This is why nostalgia often appears during transitions. Not because the past is calling you, because your brain is trying to resolve, which version of me am I supposed to be now? And until that question is answered, it keeps pulling old identities forward as reference points. Not to get over the past, but to update your internal model so it stops searching for something that already evolved. Here's how that process works psychologically. Step 1. Name the version you think you miss. What to do? Instead of saying, I miss those days, describe who you were in them. Were you more spontaneous? Less self-conscious? More hopeful? Why it works? Labeling activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, which helps reorganize emotional memory instead of letting it stay vague and unresolved. Example: you realize you don't miss college. You miss being someone who tried things without overthinking. Step 2. Separate identity from circumstances. What to do? Ask, which parts were me and which parts were just my environment? Why it works? The brain often fuses context with identity. Cognitive psychology calls this context-dependent selfing. We assume we can only feel a certain way in certain settings. But identity traits can exist independent of environment. Example: you didn't laugh more because life was easier. You laughed more because you had fewer internal rules about how to behave. Step 3. Reintroduce traits, not memories. What to do? Choose one trait from that past version and practice it now, in small, deliberate ways. Why it works? Behavioral activation rewires identity faster than reflection. The brain updates self-concept based on action, not thought. Example: instead of reminiscing about being creative, you spend 10 minutes making something badly. Not to relive the past, to teach your brain that this trait still exists. Step 4. Allow the old identity to become a chapter. What to do? Stop trying to merge past you with present you. Let them be connected, but not identical. Why it works. Narrative psychology shows that well-being improves when people organize life into evolving chapters, rather than trying to maintain a single unchanging self. The brain prefers coherent stories over frozen identities. Example, you don't need to get back to who you were at 19. That person did their job. They got you here. Step 5. Build familiarity with the person you're becoming. What to do? Create small, repeated experiences that define your current identity. Not dramatic change. Consistency. Why it works. Neural familiarity reduces resistance. The brain accepts identities that feel predictable. Example, a quiet walk, writing regularly, showing up to something even when unsure. Over time, the unfamiliar self becomes recognizable. So the real shift is this. You're not trying to return to an old self. You're updating the internal map your brain uses to recognize who you are. Think of identity like a coastline, always shaped by the same ocean, always changing form, but still continuous. The past version of you wasn't lost. It was absorbed, and now your brain is learning the shape of the shoreline again. There's nothing wrong with feeling pulled backward sometimes. It just means your mind is trying to make sense of change. You don't need to chase that old version of you. You don't need to recreate their life. You only need to notice that you are still in the same story, just further along than you expected. And maybe the reason the past feels so vivid is not because it was better, but because it was the last time you clearly recognized yourself. Now, you're learning to recognize yourself again. Slowly, quietly, in real time. And one day, without realizing when it happened, this version of you will feel just as familiar,